Welcome to the Real Chat Podcast,
where we talk business, lifestyle, and mindset.
For the modern entrepreneur.
I'm Baxter Colburn.
I'm Allison Elise.
I'm Mandy Wilkie. Let's chat.
All right, we are ready for a new episode of the Real Chat Podcast. I'm Baxter Colburn. That's Mandy Wilkie. That's Allie Shu. Ladies, I hope that your week has been good. Thanksgiving in a couple days. How are we feeling about everything?
I said it was a short week, depending on who you ask. Like if you're hosting Thanksgiving, some people would rather work.
It's true. I know. It kind of feels weird. I've some people that I work with that are not doing anything tomorrow. Some people are like, oh, I'll see you in December. I'm like, you're just taking the whole week off after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Some people are just done and moving on.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
I have some people that are just off until the new year, so that's fine.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. I mean, let's do it.
Wish I could do that.
Once the podcast gets rolling and we can take a month or two off at a time.
There we go.
Right?
Well, we're going to, our goal for 24, we said there was a live show in Florida. So that's the
speak
plan.
it into fruition and it shall happen.
Yeah. Exactly.
Baxter's mom's over in the corner cheering.
It's true. We have a studio audience today. So
we have a studio audience.
Live show from the beach, hopefully, would be the thought process, I think. We'll make it happen. It's an expense.
It did snow this morning. So if we can talk all things Florida, that's amazing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, we do have our very first guest on the podcast. And speaking of Florida, someone that has some ties not only to Florida, but also to me personally. He is a business owner. He is an entertainer, I would say. He is a man only among himself. He's a unique character, and it is my brother Seth. He owns Seth Ner-Fun down in Florida. And Seth, we are excited to have you on the show today, so thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
I think you might need to say the name of the business one more time because he said, hey, y'all, in the middle of the business.
That's true.
What's
the name of your, how about you say it? It'd be easier.
So my name is Seth, and my business name is Seth's Ner-Fun, SETHS. Ner-Fun. I'm not officially affiliated with Nerf, so I can't have Nerf in the logo or name just yet. But it's
fair enough.
A little clever way we figured out how to get around it.
Nice.
Yeah, give us a little overview of what your business is, what it does.
So basically what I do is I do Nerf battles for a wide variety of events, whether it's community events, birthday parties. I've done team building exercises. I've done stuff for businesses, just anybody who wants to host a Nerf battle or party event of any sort. They come to me, I bring all the stuff, all the gear needed for anything, and then we run it and we have a blast.
Oh my gosh, that's cool. So you can go to people's like homes and stuff too? Mm-hmm. Oh my God,
they're like,
so cool.
Hey, we got land out back, or we got a park we want to go to, or hey, we got a church we want to do something for our youth group. And
the birthday parties are a big thing that you do, right?
Mm-hmm. That is so cool.
Probably the busiest thing that I do. So
would you say it's geared towards boys or equal opportunity, boys and girls parties?
I'll say equal opportunity because I've done girls only parties, funny enough, and I've done parties with boys and girls. Okay. I've done some for just boys. I've gotten everything under the sun. So.
Talk to us a little bit about the age range.
That's what I was going to ask.
There you go.
I mean, I feel like an adult Nerf party would be pretty fun.
I'm like, let's do it.
I have adult children, so, you know, that might be a fun Christmas opportunity.
So I will say, like, the youngest party I've ever done was a 5-year-old boys party.
Okay.
But the oldest, I guess, event I've ever done was for the Glory soccer team, which was majority adult party.
Okay.
With, like, some family and friends, but it was a majority adult party. But I've had parents, grandparents join us at events. I've had people who've come from other states. They're like, hey, we just saw this while we're in town for the weekend. So I'll get anybody, any age, anywhere.
I'm just thinking like a family reunion. How fun would that be?
Yeah, right?
Like,
that
you
is
can shoot
super
Uncle
cool.
Tommy.
That idea,
really
Grandma needs that.
Yeah. Boom.
For real. That idea of a business is so unique. I think that's so cool. Mm-hmm. Like I've never heard of that. I don't know.
So speaking of that, how was this born? Where did this idea come from?
So the idea started about 4 years back. I was part of a group called Odyssey the Mind, and we were, it's a group that does like creative problem solving. It's like a whole big competition event thing. First year we did it, nothing really exciting happened. We didn't win our first competition, so we didn't move on. Nothing happened. But the second year we did it, we won the regional competition, and we were moving on to states. Thing is, moving on to states, you need to raise money to be able to go to it, like for staying, paying, all that kind of stuff.
Sure, your expenses while you're there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we were trying to think of like things to do, like, you know, bake sales, car washes. We were trying to plan like a parents' night out, you know, like watch kids while the parents did stuff or whatever. Just trying to think of things to get some funds. And one of the things, that I thought of was like, I got a bunch of blasters. I know some people. Why don't we try to host like a pay and play Nerf event? And they're like, okay, we'll give it a try. So we made flyers for it. We told everybody for weeks about it. we tried to do everything we could, talk to groups, and luckily it was our biggest means of raising funds for it. We had like 30 some people show up with more like on the side just watching. Yeah. And it was a huge success. And people even, like we had a little spot, like if people want to donate, like it was a huge success. And people loved it. People who have been there, people who didn't even know it was a thing. They're like, hey, I saw there's a Nerf battle. I want to join. And it was incredible.
So originally what was an idea for a fundraiser to get you onto the next level of something turned into a business.
Because people from the event or people just seeing it, they're like, hey, we heard you did this thing. Could you do it again? Or when's the next one? Or how about for my kid's birthday party? Can you do that? I'm like, okay, I guess we're getting serious now. And so slowly started working into it, just, you know, like a party here or like trying to do another event there or even trying to do it like for a theme. Like we tried to do like, hey, it's Halloween. You can dress up when you come into the event. Just made it kind of anything. And then slowly getting more into it. We're like, okay, now we're getting more business. I got a shirt, not this one just yet, but I got like an official shirt with my logo on it just so it's like me. And then, yeah, it blew up from there essentially.
That's so cool.
You and I have similarities as far as how our businesses started because similar thing, right? Like it was not something that you set out to do. It wasn't something that was like, oh, I always have wanted to have a Nerf business. It was like, oh, it's a one-time thing. And somebody says, hey, would you do this again? Would you do this video again? I saw you did one thing for them. And you're like, oh, sure, I'll try it once or twice. And then all of a sudden, wait, maybe there is something here. And you've done small birthday parties, you've done stuff at churches, you've done stuff you just had a huge zombie event, which you can talk about in a little bit, where like you're at these huge venues and all of a sudden it's not just a like, oh, let's just get together and blast people. It's like, oh no, there is something a lot bigger here, right?
It's not just pulling out the blasters from the garage and shooting, like it's an actual event.
Right.
And talk to us a little bit about like the size of events. Is this for 5 kids? Is this for 35 people? Talk about the sizes. Talk about the length of time. Is this event a 3-hour window? Is it a 1-hour window? Talk to us a little bit about if someone were to want to have you involved in one of their activities, what kind of time commitment, what kind of financial commitment, what kind of numbers? Like, is it limited?
So I'll answer for the regular events. So our regular events are 2 hours long. We'll do them in the mornings, but during the summer we'll do them during the night, just so it's not like too hot. But
you host a monthly event.
It's events. It's events once a month, but then during June through August we'll switch it to the evenings, just so it's not too hot during the day for the kids. But it's 2 hours, and we'll have anything like our smallest average is like 20, but our biggest average has been between 35, 40. Our biggest event is 55 kids.
Wow.
55 people showing up for it. Was our Halloween event 2 years ago. Is so far our biggest public event that we've done.
And where did you hold that?
So we have a church that we do it at. A friend of ours is the pastor there, and he's been so gracious to us for letting us use it. But it's got big grass area in the front with like trees and stuff for cover, and then same thing in the back, just huge grass area, like a big tree in the middle. It's a really cool layout, and we've been using that for past 2.5 years now, and it's been going really well.
Guess that's nice because you don't have to worry about snow.
This is true.
And the weather, and like for us, it would be like 3 months out of the year we could do this outside. Otherwise, we'd have to find an indoor location. But that's really cool that you obviously get to use the Florida weather.
So I have a question. So you obviously have been a part of this now for a couple of years, right? Would you say about 2 years, really? I know you said 2.5.
2.5 officially, but like 4 years doing events, I'd say.
Okay. Where in your mind, so I know your backstory, these ladies don't. You have a huge passion for music. You have a huge passion for Legos, engineering, that just world as a whole. How in your brain did you say, this is something that I really want to invest in and not just do a couple one-offs? Was it because people were saying, Seth, I'll give you money? Or was it because you had this switch of saying, oh, wait a minute, there's an untapped market here. I really want to invest in it? It
was a little mixture of both, because I know some people were like, yeah, this was super cool. And we know you, like it's friends of ours who were like, hey, we want you to do it for our party. You know, you were our coach for soccer or whatever it was. And they're like, yeah, we knew you. But then it was also like people finding out about me. They're like, oh, there's a Nerf battle thing? My son really loves Nerf. Can you come do a party for us? I'm like, sure. And so it was just a really weird experience going from doing something I knew to doing something officially. Because it was like, yeah, I would have Nerf battles with my friends. I'd do little things here and there. But then when it got official, it's like, whoa, now I actually got to be taking it serious. Now I actually got to get into the grind, essentially, because that's really what it got into.
Well, I think for parents, as a mom of 3, especially with a son, I mean, he's going to be 18 here shortly, which I'm like, you know,
but you're like 27. Like, how does that work?
Right. I know. I'm 27. I had him very, very young. But, you know, especially for boys, and as a mom, when he was younger, planning a party for boys is not an easy thing. Like girls, it's easy. But, you know, you tire out from the Chuck E. Cheese's, and not that there's anything wrong with any of those.
Of course.
But you tire out from the normal. So this is something that's really unique and provides an opportunity to come in and say, for someone else to come in and entertain kids, so I don't have to, priceless.
Cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Priceless. I mean, let's be honest.
There's a price that's tied to it, obviously, but yes, it is. It's that relief, though, right? Like, talk to us about the feedback. What have you heard from parents specifically after events, or that have gotten the referrals from? Oh, I heard you did a party for Susie and her kids. I loved it. You know, I'm hoping to do something similar. Like, what do you hear from your customers? Because it's not the kids, right? Little Tommy's not saying, "Hey, Mr. Seth, come do this." It's, you know, Mrs. Johnson, Mrs. whoever, right? Or Mr. reaching out to you directly. So you're talking to parents directly.
It is mostly the parents, yeah. And so, of course, the kids, you know, have the fun and they'll go tell their parents. But then it's the parents come to me like, hey, we saw you at this event and we thought it was incredible. We've never seen anything like it, or we've only seen like videos from YouTubers about it. We've never actually seen it. And so we're like, hey, we want to try it out. We want to hire you. We want to have you for our youth group. So it's a weird mix because it's, you know, yes, of course it's entertaining the kids, but it's the kids who tell the parents what they actually like. Because the parents can see it and be like, oh, that's cool. But then when their kid tells them, I had a lot of fun, then they're like, yeah, we had a lot of fun. We want to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, I want to touch on that because one of the things that Baxter shared with us, maybe it's because he's your brother, but that you got into this really knowing nothing about so entrepreneurship, sorry. So when you're saying to me, okay, we're at a birthday party, and this is how my brain works as someone who's got a marketing background, right? So when you're saying to me, we're having a party and there's 20 kids that come, are you doing anything to hand out to those 20 kids so they take it home and say, Mom, I want this for my party? Because these are things that we want to hear from your perspective, because you started this business not knowing much about business. So that's free marketing. What are you learning along the way?
And I will clarify too, this wasn't a trash on my brother saying he doesn't know anything, but like you kind of fell into this a little bit, right? I'm the exact same way. I didn't have a huge business background. I didn't go to school for that. So then to be like thrust into the business world, I was like, I don't know. I'm just figuring this out.
And you learn as you go.
there was a lot of learning curve to it, especially.
And that's the goal for the podcast who's listening, is someone else that maybe has this great idea, but they really don't have a lot of business background, which you didn't have. So how are you going about learning these things?
So, I mean, mostly to say like what you said before, like to like get it out to people, mostly what we do is, because our events have been, you know, bustling and we'll usually get a lot of new people. What we'll do is we'll make sure, you know, we get a flyer to people, because we usually try to make like a cool official flyer. We'll post it on a lot of stuff. I have Instagram and Facebook I'll be posting stuff on. We have different groups that we're a part of that we post it out to, but mostly funny enough, it is a lot of word of mouth is also what I'm noticing, because parents know each other and they're like, yeah, we just went to this cool thing this weekend, or like, yeah, we had 5 of our boys go to this cool event, and they tell, you know, their neighbor, and they're like, oh, cool. Because I've had parents call me, they're like, hey, we heard there's an event today. Is that true? I'm like, yeah. They're like, we want to do a
How did we get our child at that event?
Correct.
Yeah.
I need them out of the house.
They're like, we heard about it too late. We really wanted to go, but when's the next one? And so I'm like, oh, well, it's this and this, and I'll tell them. And then, but mostly when it comes to getting the word out, like I said, we do have people that we do reach out to. We have groups that we're a part of, and then all the other socials that we use to get it out as well.
And like social media being a quote unquote free marketing tool that we are blessed with in the entrepreneur world. I mean, for me, that's how I get all of my business is word of mouth, and then social media, which doesn't cost me a monetary value. I hope that never dies, because that is the coolest way to spread your business, is by people in your own community valuing what you're giving to your community, and also like seeing that every single day grow bigger and bigger based on just the experience alone that you're giving, which I think is the coolest thing.
And I'll say real quick as well, it's a funny little story, actually. There's a group in Naples, which is where I live and where I'm based. There's a group in Naples called the Naples Moms Group. And it's just all the moms that like are in the area that talk about all different kinds of stuff. And I get calls from people who are like, hey, we saw you on the Naples Moms Group and we want to check you out. I'm like,
Seth, are you
I'm
moms
like,
moms are a big
me.
market.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a huge
That's your target
market.
audience right there.
It's been so interesting because I've got tagged in stuff where it's like, lady just posted picture of your flyers on the page. I'm like, whoa, so it's actually a thing.
Yeah.
And then I'll have people commenting on it like, yeah, we've been to his things before, or hey, they tag somebody else, check this out. Or I've even had people like I've worked with who are like, yeah, it's pretty cool to see, what he does. I'm
That's
like,
so cool.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So I have to ask the big scary question, because I think this is what every side hustle entrepreneur gets asked at some point, is what's the goal with this business? Is the goal to be full-time at some point, or is this just an awesome side hustle that is putting extra cash in your pocket? And I know you're young, so for people who don't know, you're 19.
I am 19
At the
years
time of the
old, yes.
recording of this, by the time this comes out, you'll be 20. Your birthday's in
20
a
next
couple
month.
weeks here.
Oh, I want to be 20 again.
Right? I know.
Dang it.
What was life
So
like
fun.
at 20, right? But
I'll tell you all
No,
about
no.
it. Don't worry.
Yeah, but when you sit back though and you think about your longevity, and we can ask that deeper question later, but as far as like what is your vision for this through the first couple of years that you've done it, as far as what you think the longevity is or how you view it? Because some people are like, yeah, I do it, it's fine, but it's more of a job than it is a fun thing.
Yeah. So it did kind of start off, like you said, like a side hustle where I was also in school, so not really much I could do throughout the week, but also I was also a ref for soccer, so my weekends were getting taken up every now and then. So it was like, yeah, just kind of a fun thing. We're doing an event here, a little fun thing there. But now that it's gotten a little bit more busy, like I have weekends booked out to January as of right now for parties that people are trying to plan. And so it's slowly but surely getting more into that official job type thing. It is a little bit difficult because it is something geared towards kids, and kids are usually busy during the week, or even trying to do it for adults and stuff. They work during the day. Like,
Yep.
I'll talk about one opportunity I did have was for a fast food place down in Florida. It's called PDQ. It's a cool little place. I've been there a bunch of times, and the owner there saw me, like he heard about my business, and he reached out to me, and he was like, hey, I want to do something for my employees. I got like 20 some employees and I want to try to get a Nerf thing done. We tried to work it out, but because of everybody working and the timing and the location we couldn't get right, it didn't work out. And so it's a weird thing because it happens on a lot of weekends, but then it's just nothing during the week, except for maybe like a youth group on a Wednesday night or a Friday night. But
Sure.
it's a weird, yeah.
I want you both to touch on that because you're both in industries for a while where, like, if you're photographing weddings, it's weekends, right? And so you've had the experience where, Allie, you're not kind of stepping back from that. So maybe talk to him a little bit about that. How do you feel about that? Because really the majority of your weekends, if this business continues to grow. Before we do that, though, shout out to PDQ. We will be looking for a sponsor when
There
we
you
take
go.
this on the road. So
They have really good chicken.
noted there.
It's like the Chick-fil-A. It's
I was
Chick-fil-A
going to say
like.
too that
It is
There's a
much better
marketing.
chicken.
even though that
I will
didn't
say.
happen, who's to say that won't eventually happen, which is
Correct.
kind of cool.
We still talk about
Still
stuff,
talk
and
about
the
it.
cool thing is PDQ was able to actually provide food for my most recent big event.
Yeah.
Like
love
I
that.
was able to talk to them, and he was like, "Yeah, totally."
That's so
right.
cool.
Right. And
That'll
someday
happen.
that'll work
It'll happen.
out. Absolutely. But talk to him maybe a little bit about that, because when you're young and you're 19 and you're super excited and you're like, yeah, I can work all weekend, every weekend. I want to be booked up for the next 8 months. And that might be great for a year or two. But
Sounds like Allie.
Allie,
Definitely
talk
like
about that a little bit with
That's how I was in
Yeah.
my business.
Tell me
I
about
was,
it, yeah.
I was a wedding photographer for the entirety of my business. I started my business when I was 16.
Ooh.
And I was basically
Now she's
working.
17.
Now I'm 17. So
Crazy how time works.
Whoa.
yeah,
Don't
I've
you
only
look
got
good?
13
She's
years
like,
of
oh, if
experience,
Mandy's
but I'm still
27,
19.
Allie's 17.
Yeah, 17.
Wait a
Sorry, I
second.
said 19.
Yeah.
And for me, and I was a young mom. I had my daughter at 21, but the grind was it for me. I said yes to everything. I wanted the experience under my belt. I didn't care if I worked Sundays. That was part of my experience to my clients was I want to be available to them because it's my job to fit into their schedule. And as I established and as I got more experience and as I really learned what I love to do, and this is more so in the sense where when you get to a place in your business where you're like, I love doing kids' birthday parties. Okay, yes, that's pretty much always going to be on a weekend.
Right.
And you have to know going into your business and into the start of your business, what type of market you're kind of catering to. And just like wedding photography, I'm catering to a weekend job market. That's I'm a vendor for a weekend event. That's just what I signed up for. And as I started getting out of that, I obviously learned that I really liked family photography, and I kind of merged into a new version of myself as a photographer. However, through experience, that's how I got there. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that. But Baxter, do you have anything to touch on that?
Yeah, similar story to that. I mean, especially when you first start out, you do say yes to everything, right? You say yes to every birthday party. You say yes to everything that comes through. I mean,
which isn't a bad thing.
No, not at all.
That's a great thing.
Absolutely. And I think that shows that you're interested and you're dedicated in what it is that you're a part of, right? If you just said no to, every 4 opportunities and said yes to one, like, well, you're not really going to grow or scale. Like, what are you doing? So I did that too. A lot of sports events, tournaments on the weekends, some weddings, but then for bigger brand shoots too, like you need 4 to 6 hours. And I worked full time Monday through Friday. And if I needed models, like, well, it's got to be a Saturday or it's got to be a Sunday. So you get creative, right? And I'm thankfully in a full time role that helps me with my schedule now. So I've been able to kind of be communicative and tailor my work schedule to that now. But that's because I had to figure out the industries I wanted to work in real estate, in sports and tourism and all of that different stuff. Like you have to just figure out when those operate, right? For you being an events-based thing, it really is nights and weekends, unless you get linked in with a school or something, right? That's an after school thing, but still, like, you're probably not going to be doing much from 8 to 5 most weekdays, most likely, right? But there are opportunities, obviously, to be out selling yourself or marketing yourself or fixing equipment, right? There's all kinds of stuff to shift and tailor that, right? If you're shooting on the weekends, you're probably doing stuff with your cameras or editing during the weeks, right? So you figure out your workflow based on the industry that you're in, and that just comes with time, right?
And it's not just, always the events that are going on. Like you said, there is always fixing stuff, or there's always having to clean things. There's always some background routine, of course, but it's not enough to do it as a day-by-day thing. It is just still weekends and evenings as of right now.
So
go ahead.
I was going to say I have 2 questions for you.
Go for it.
And they kind of coincide with each other. Do you have a space that you, or like a store, or like a business, like storefront, I guess, that you keep all of your equipment in? Do you do that out of your home? Do you have a garage? And then also, do you have employees that work underneath you? Do you have people that help you out that you're paying as well throughout the process of your events that you're doing?
So if you get booked for 2 parties in one day at 11 o'clock.
Do you have events this weekend?
No.
Okay.
Well, Sunday I do. I go back to Florida on Saturday and I have a party Sunday morning.
Okay.
But to answer the question about the storing, we have a storage unit I share with my mom, and I take up about half of it. I have a whole wall full of racks of blasters.
How many
bins.
blasters? If you had to guess.
The guesstimation, and it keeps growing, but I'm guesstimating over 500.
Really?
Yes.
Between Florida and Wisconsin? Or
Between
just
Florida and Wisconsin.
So you have a supply here.
He's
and
got
a supply
about 5
there.
or 6 bins in my garage.
I got about.
It's way cheaper.
I think it was like
rent, Baxter.
40 something here. I think I counted like 48 or something here. But in Florida, I have no clue. I have not done an official category count in a hot minute.
So my son is 2.5.
Yeah.
And I want to get on your calendar for when he's 5. So
There we go. We'll book you about 3
So when
years.
you're that
Yeah.
I'm looking at 3 years. Can I book you out that long? No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, and then
Knock it
employees.
down,
Do you have people
right?
that help you out?
I do actually, yeah. So I started out with it was mostly just volunteers because I didn't know what I was doing at first, and I was making really
Welcome
Use
to
that as long as
entrepreneurship.
you can.
Yeah.
Long as you
yes,
can.
and I was making very little bank as well because it was just quick and easy events, nothing too fun or exciting. So I had friends of mine who were like fellow coaches with me who would help out. They'd be there and help out. And then when I started getting more official and I actually got like shirts, we actually made a bunch of like assistant shirts. And so anybody who was working for me, I would like, here, you can have a shirt. Whenever I have an event, you can slap it on, whatever.
Love it.
And then got to be more, frequent and more lucrative. And so I'm like, now I can actually start paying you. And I've had a few people come and go because they were also teenagers, school, also had life going on. And so, But I do have a few people who stick close with me and do help out a bunch. One of those being my mother, I will say. She's awesome.
Shout out to
Thank
Mom.
God for mothers.
Love Mom. She's the best.
And then I also have another friend of mine who is doing a lot of the admin work with me as well. She's been very helpful. Shout out to Mary.
Very cool.
Love it. So 2 questions that I always love to ask entrepreneurs, especially when they're starting off or in general as they've been going for a while. And if you can think of these 2 answers, what has been in your mind your biggest success and what has been your biggest, I'm going to say lesson learned, because failure is, it happens. We all mess up or screw up or fail at some point, but what would you say is your biggest lesson learned so far through the first really 2.5 years of true business?
Yeah, so the biggest success I'd probably say would be, it's a tough one because I do have a lot of events that I do consider big successes, because there's a lot of them that are just, I'll have like in a row, a lot of parties or a lot of events that are just really good. But, because I can't even say like, my biggest event size, I can't even call that my biggest success, because there was things with that event that could have gone better.
What do you classify as success maybe then?
Smoothly run. The kids obviously had a good time, or it was, honestly, I'd say if it's smoothly ran, because a lot of times when we get a lot of new people or a lot of people who've come before, they start to like think they know the gist. They kind of get like, oh yeah, we know what to do. We don't have to listen to the rules, that kind of stuff. It's happened a few times, so it's kind of like, But probably the biggest success, I will say one. There was an event I did for a youth group, which was my biggest community event that I did. That had 50 kids show up.
That's awesome.
It was a massive success. It was an incredible group, an incredible place. We knew the lady who was trying to run it as well. She was like, hey, I've seen you doing this for a while. We want to do something for our church. And it went really, really well. All the kids had a great time. They helped clean up. It was really good. And so that was probably my biggest success. My biggest lesson learned.
In business. It doesn't have to be from an event specifically, but what have you learned, right?
Well, mostly when stuff happens, when it's just events, it is kind of just, the events that happen. But I will say the biggest lesson learned was probably maybe for a specific event, planning out a little bit more, because there was some things that happened with an event that happened recently that could have taken a little bit more looking into, a little bit more planning with it, because there's an event I did recently where it was a lot of expenses that came up kind of out of nowhere, and we're kind of like, oh. And so having to work through that, having to really grind to actually have it work out, because a lot of it was really like hoping it would work out for us, and the event was like, the event was kind of going to pay for it essentially.
Sure.
Because we were hoping it would be, because we were hoping it was going to be like a massive event. We were like, oh yeah, we can totally do all of this. And then when we were getting up close to it, and it was kind of like, oh no, luckily the event still went really well, and it did help a bunch, but it was still a very big lesson learned, because it was as big an event as it was, and there's a lot of planning that we did for it. Still could have used a little bit more, honestly. So
the good news is as you grow as an entrepreneur, you'll never make that mistake again.
Yep.
And there's a lot of wins to that, right? You learn from it, and you're like, okay, I learned and I grew. I learn and I grow from
100%.
this. And now going forward, you can set those parameters so that never happens again.
Yep.
So that's very cool.
Well, one more question for me, and then we always like to see if guests have any entrepreneurship questions or business questions. We're not experts, but we always love offering our sides as well. But one question that I have is, when you look at business as a whole, who or what motivated you and to give you that drive to do a business? Did you have family members, friends? Did you have business owners that you would look at and say, oh, that makes a lot of sense. They're doing it. Why can't I do it? They're the ones that I'm looking after, learning from them. I know mom and dad were entrepreneurs in their own ways within reasons, but not full-fledged in a lot of different areas, but also have done a lot of things. Was it them that kind of gave you that drive, that installation of like, I can go for this? Or like, where do you feel like when you sit back at night and say, yep, this is the why or how I've gotten to this point because I've seen what they've done?
Mm-hmm. So it is a good mix of stuff. Like you said, seeing like what mom and dad have done, seeing how they've kind of gone and did their own things. give a little shameless plug back to you, seeing you doing your own things with.
That wasn't a backpack on me. I'm just genuinely curious, but I appreciate that.
I didn't know we
Thank you.
could shamelessly plug ourselves here.
Yeah,
no,
that's
I was
fine.
kidding.
I
still do
appreciate that, but that was not the
still
reason
seeing-
for my question. I hope everybody understands.
But still seeing like some of the stuff that you did was also like, oh, if he can do it and I have a like family to actually help me out with it because they probably did the thing, or if I have questions about it, I can ask him about it. But when I do things, I'll be like, oh yeah, I can always go with them. But I guess the biggest inspiration, like outside of personal people, I did watch a lot of YouTube, I will say, and I saw a lot of stuff. And one of the big things that really caught my attention was something called Jared's Epic Nerf Battle. It's this guy named Jared Gwines. He's a cool guy, lives out in Texas. But he basically started this idea of what if we made the largest Nerf battle possible? And he was big on social media, and so he basically put it out to everybody he could, and he hosted the event with 1,000 people.
Wow.
At the Dallas Cowboy Stadium.
At AT&T
Cool.
Stadium.
At AT&T Stadium. And he's been
amazing.
doing
Wild.
that for the past 7-8 years now. Like he's on his 8th.
You need to be friends with that guy.
Yeah.
I need to go to Texas at some point.
Yeah.
I made it my goal.
We'll take the show to Texas.
There we go.
Exactly.
Seth back.
I made it one of my
will.
goals to go to a Jared's Epic Nerf Battle to actually try that out.
You will
'Cause-
manifest that. You
love
will do
that.
that.
Seeing him, he was like, he's like, I love Nerf. I know a lot of people who do Nerf. Let me get some of the biggest Nerf YouTubers over here as well.
Cool.
And it's another big thing that's been like, if somebody can just throw a big event like that,
Yeah.
what's stopping me?
Yeah.
Okay,
for
I have
sure.
an idea. Can I give him an idea?
Please.
Send
All
it.
right. I don't know if this will work or not, but in my head, I'm thinking about all these people that are attending. And you said you have monthly events that people can go to. They're open to the public.
Yeah.
I'd be getting those press-on tattoos with your QR code to register for your next event. And when every kid checks in, you do a little tattoo on them, and they can go home and they can be like, "Mom, make sure I'm registered for the next one." They sell out. And now you scan that mom can just QR code that, go right to your Facebook link. So if you'd like to market that idea,
There you
Then
go.
I do
Mandy,
have a
Mandy
PR.
would take 20%.
just remember I came with, isn't that a good idea?
I do like that, though.
And
Yeah.
then you'll
Actually,
take-
just a free QR code. Just boop.
Yes.
Yeah,
'cause
you fill your schedule. Then.
Yeah, my kids come home with a flyer, right? I don't look at those.
I got one last night at
like, throw it
gymnastics.
away,
I'm like,
empty out
that's nice.
the backpack. But a QR code, like tattoo, kids love tattoos, by the way.
True.
100%.
You know,
I do notice that actually.
register them for the event. Hey, mom, dad, check in your son or daughter. Here's their little tattoo. Then when they go home and they're like, the next event is November 30th, just give them the QR code that goes right to your booking link and let them book.
I guess the
There
one
you go.
thing I'll say with that before is we used to do like a stamping thing where we had like little cute Nerf stamps. They were
Yeah.
blue and orange, and when
Yeah.
they would come in, we'd stamp them. The crazy thing is, in Florida, people
They sweat.
Yeah.
And so they would come off
Yes.
quickly. And so
Yes.
we kind of stopped doing that, and we did like bracelets. Like we have like the
Yeah.
like think like going to an amusement park where you
Oh,
get like
sure.
that.
Yep.
Sure.
And
That
you
little
pull it out and from
Yeah.
underneath, like
You
the
can
little
make
paper ones.
stickers.
Yeah, figure out a way
Yeah.
to have that kid wear home a QR
Something, yeah.
code to
Or
register.
incentivize them even more if you have another event coming up in a month and say, hey, pre-registration is open until this point at a discounted price, and you can be put into a
100%.
drawing to win a blaster or something, right? So that way they have that incentivization
Prepay for
that
the
is-
year.
to get into that even
Prepay
more.
for the year.
Ooh, a battle pass.
A
Get
battle pass.
Ooh.
pass. Discounted,
Yep.
that's
and
more
with
catchy.
the
somewhere.
There
prepayment
we
for
go.
the
The
year,
Fortnite
you
kids
get,
are going to be flocking.
you
Right.
get $25
Mom, I can
off
buy
of
a
a Nerf
battle
package.
pass.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
For the
maybe your
whole
battle
year.
pass includes one Nerf gun and 12
Yeah.
events.
I will. Oh, sorry. I will say
Also
real
take
quick.
credit for
at
marketing
the end
that
of all
idea.
of our, I will say real quick. At the end of all our events, we actually do
yep.
giveaways.
You
have,
should.
We have like 4 or 5, depending on what event it is. We'll
Yeah.
have a bunch of blasters, and at the end of it, we'll make sure we end a little bit early and all that kind of stuff, and we'll, give everybody a ticket, and we'll do the drawing. Sometimes we'll even give away a free Nerf event.
That's
like
amazing.
A pass to the next Nerf event.
Yes,
They'll
because
bring
it doesn't cost you anything to give that away,
Exactly.
but your time,
Right.
right? So if you can give away things or upsell things, that's
Mm-hmm.
a big tip. If you can, I always tell people, don't discount, upsell.
Right.
So maybe it's a t-shirt package or whatever it is.
At some
People
point, I do
pay-
want to get merch. Actually,
Yeah,
That is-
because
that is
people
for sure.
pay
Will it
how
be
much
purple?
an event?
So
Will
before
it be the brand color?
Purple?
Yes, purple. Yes,
Yes,
for those
the brand
watching,
color.
you
not
can
all the
see
same
it's
color.
all purple.
Yes, in case you don't know, I have purple.
I can't
Purple
be
socks
sure, but I
too.
think purple is
Purple
the
socks,
color
yep.
of the.
It is my favorite color.
You're
and-
colorblind. You're really confused.
Not
right
many
now.
people can
My
pull off purple
apologies.
socks, but I think Seth's got it.
He does.
Thank you.
Yeah. I was worried about mine today. Seth's got purple socks.
Yeah,
on.
you're good.
So. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, so price-wise, before when we started as a fundraiser, we started at $5 a person. Just
that
super quick and
enough.
easy. We were thinking like, just to get people there.
Yeah.
And now we have upped it. We upped it next to 10, and then we've kind of settled at it, and it kind of works. And we might change it, don't know. But right now we are doing $20 a person at the door. And that whole discounted thing, it is $15 if they decide to pay ahead. Whether it is
pay online, right?
Yeah, they can pay online, or if they have like Venmo or whatever. Like I've had people like, hey, I know next month event is coming up. We won't probably see you until then. We'll pay for it right now. I'm like, cool.
Hold our spot.
I feel like going back to that, like, the blast pass or whatever for the whole year. Okay, you think about it in sports. We put our kids in things like that for so many different reasons. Like my sister bought a yearly pass for Get Air, which is a trampoline park.
Yeah.
And you go for 1 hour, and that is something that is just an out for your kids. It's an outing. It's something that gets their energy out. And if you approach it in that respect, like I would buy a blast pass for my 7-year-old son because once a month I know that he has a cool event for 2 hours
And
that
you
he's
get
going to
2
have
hours without
so
him.
much fun at, and he's always going to look forward to it, especially if he loves Nerf. Like that is such a cool business model. It's such a cool business idea that you have. I think you're doing great business by having the giveaways, by having the opportunity for people to win things and the incentives for these kids, because that is something really cool for them to look forward to. And you have a different approach because you're a teenager. Like that, nothing is more relevant than being the teenager, loving that, and then running a business and then making money doing it. 100%. I think that is so cool and really admirable too.
And as parents, we love to let our kids do things they love, but we also love the fact that we get a 2-hour window to just be an adult.
Correct.
So we get to hand them off to you, Seth, and say, entertain our kids.
Fun.
I'm going to run to the grocery store without an extra kid.
Yep.
I'm going to catch a quick movie at an hour and a half.
And I'm going to come back,
do some shopping.
Yep.
my kid's going to be
100%.
sweating
They're
and
gonna go to
tired
bed
and ready
when
to
we
lay
get
on the
home.
couch when we get home.
So your bill payment, all that fun stuff.
All the wins.
So I think
I will
that's
say
super
one of
cool.
the most interesting comments I get is when people actually find out how old I am.
Yeah.
Because I will go to the events, and then parents are like, they'll come up to me with like the most confused face. They're like, how old are you actually? I'm like, you want to take a guess? And they rarely ever get it right. They'll say anything upwards of 20. I've gotten 30s.
Well, I think you look. I think
I've
you
gotten
look
30s,
older.
and I'm like,
If you
I'm
haven't
19.
shaved, yeah.
I think I pin you as like 21.
Oh, see,
That's how I
I'd
pin
pin
you
you older.
at.
Like the oldest I think I got from a mom. Like I did a birthday party for her. They're like, what are you, like 30, 32 or something?
Oh,
I'm like, I'm
that's
19
cool.
years old. And they're like, what? And I think I even got that back to like
Your
18.
gray blending's a lot better than mine.
Oh, yes,
Do
of
they
course.
follow up with, wow, you're so communicative? Like you like, because that's something to really like, I don't know, appreciate about yourself too, is that when you have those business communicative, I guess, characteristics about yourself, that's a huge win.
It's
because
a huge
not
compliment.
Huge compliment. Not a lot of people have that. And that's why I think, in my personal opinion, some businesses fail because the communication falls under and, they don't know how to run the business end of it. Like Nerf, that's fun. Like your business is genuinely just fun, but like every business, there's hard in business. There's challenges in business, and you are running a business. So there's going to be moments too where you have these, I don't know, difficult customers or people that want something for free. And you have to deal with that. And sometimes I think maturity, obviously, and experience brings that a little bit. I mean, it makes it a little bit easier as time goes on because you have more experiences of difficult customers or whatever that is. But the way that you handle that now is, I mean, that's really cool.
Thank you.
What about a piece of advice? I mean,
I'm here
do you
for
want to give him a piece of advice, Baxter and
Give
Allie?
him
and
a piece of advice?
Give him a piece of advice about owning a business.
What do you got for me?
Gosh. I would say that how you present yourself at events and when you're communicating with people matters, because I've found that some of my best clients and my best experiences are because I wasn't trying to sell somebody on something. When you're genuinely a good person, when you're kind to people, they remember that. They remember the experience that they had with you, or their friends remember that. So when somebody says, oh, I need someone to do a video for my house, that real estate agent that I worked with will say, oh, I have a guy, because I enjoyed my experience with them. He was on time. He delivered things well. The experience from start to finish was really good. And he was genuinely a nice person. That goes a long way, as opposed to someone that can do a great quality product, but has awful people skills.
Yep.
Or just doesn't treat people like they're, more than just a number or a monetary value, right? And I've
transaction.
I've talked about that on the show before. I'm like, I could make all the money in the world, but I don't want to be remembered for having all the money in the world. I want to be remembered for being a good dad and a good husband. And that's my goal. And I hope that people realize that my genuine kindness is that. And I tell that to you people. I'm like, I don't compliment people to pad their egos. If I think you look pretty, I will tell you. If I think you're a nice person, say, I was really nice of you. Thank you. Be genuine, be kind to people. It goes a long way. And the only other, and I've said this to you before, is don't be afraid to delegate. Like, bring in people that are smarter than you in other areas.
Yeah.
Because you're only one person. You only know a certain amount of things. I did that in my business. I hired an editor, and I've never slept better because I've brought somebody in because they know how to do that at a really high level. I'm good at it, but they're a lot better at it. And I can breathe and focus on a lot more. And my business has grown a lot in the last 2 months because I've been able to focus more on the front facing as opposed to the back side of things.
Yep.
So those are kind of my 1-2 pieces of advice for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What about you, Allie? Do you have some advice?
Yeah, keep going. Through any types of lessons learned, AKA failures, if you really want to call it that, keep going. Just always push for more, or always set yourself little goals, because you hit them a lot quicker, I think, when you're actually focused on it. Like, you're sitting here, you want to go to that giant Nerf thing at AT&T. Like, you're going to do that someday. You're going to manifest that. I believe in manifestation in business. I think that when you speak good into your business and you put that out there, and the genuine aspect of it is lived through you and through what you do, that shows. So just don't give up.
Yeah. I'm going to say give yourself grace, because it's not going to be if, it's going to be when. You're going to hit an obstacle. Someone's going to be upset. You might do everything perfectly and they're not going to be happy with it. And I think at the end of the day, we're people, we're human. We have good days, we have bad days. And unfortunately, there's going to be a time where someone's going to be upset, and you have to be able to give yourself grace and pick yourself up and move on and acknowledge it if you need to. If you make a mistake, acknowledge it, of course. But there will be times where you didn't make a mistake and someone will treat you as if you did, or they will think their expectation of you is here when really it should have been here. And you're going to be made to feel like you fall short. Just be able to bless and release it. That's what a phrase in my business, bless and release, and grow from it, and give yourself grace and forgiveness, because you are human.
And I think being in business now for 2.5 years, I think it would be kind of cool also for any of the listeners to hear a piece of advice from you, being 19 years old and running,
that's what I was going to have him do.
Running a successful business at such a young age. What would be one piece of advice that you have for the aspiring entrepreneur to start their own business?
Don't be afraid to take risks, because I know for a fact that one of the things that I was scared of is like, yeah, cool, I'm doing with people I know, but what about if somebody else does it? I don't know this person. How is it going to go with them? And it was a little scary at first, but then it's like, I'm gonna just do it. And then here I am doing more and more of them. They hear from another birthday party, they hear from another friend, and it's like, whoa, it actually goes really well. Or even if it's just trying new ideas for events. Like this year we tried a bunch of new stuff. We're like, it's a new year, let's go crazy with our events. Like, let's make cool set pieces, let's make different games, all kinds of stuff. And doing those and seeing the success come out of it, it's like, that would have never happened if I actually didn't do it. Right. So I would say the biggest thing, even if it's having the idea to start it, like you're saying, and actually going for it, don't be afraid to take risks, because you never know what's going to come out of it.
I think that word coincides with entrepreneurship, risk taker.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, they're one and the same. You wouldn't have started this business without taking a little risk.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely, I agree.
Absolutely.
That's great advice.
If people want to learn more about your business, how to get in contact with you, what are the best ways for
your
them
brand
to do that?
colors?
Yeah, well, we got that. We figured that out.
Figure that out.
So what's the best way for people to get a hold of you or learn more about your business, Seth?
So the big two social medias I have a Facebook page, which is Seth's Ner-Fun, just as it is. And then I have an Instagram, which is at Seth's Ner-Fun. And in case you don't know how to spell, it's SETHSNERFUN.
So Ner-Fun. I think people might, yes.
There's a dash in there.
There's a dash in there.
It is NER-FUN.
And then super quick, you obviously have the tie to Wisconsin, also Florida. So are there months that you're in Wisconsin and months that you're in Florida? Or how does a Wisconsin
Mandy's
person...
been asking me about you doing events in Wisconsin for almost the last year, just as an FYI.
Yeah, I mean, well,
noted.
Makes sense.
I do want to do some more
You
up
store
here. I
stuff
definitely,
here.
Right.
Yeah, I keep stuff here, and I do want to definitely do more stuff up here. It's just a matter of actually getting up here as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because there's one of you.
There is just one of me,
Yeah.
which is interesting when you're running a business that is growing, because more people want you and you're like,
But let's be honest, this kind of business in Florida makes sense.
It does.
Because it's 12 months. Is that what you were going to say?
No, I was going to say we should just maybe put a plug in for the Green Bay Packers team that needs a big Nerf.
There you
event.
go. They do a paintball event every year.
That would pay for your
Lambeau Field.
There you go. Lambeau
I mean, I'm
Field.
thinking of a few churches in town too that do like
There's some
vacation
big, yeah.
Bible camps. And
It'd be kind of cool.
You're like,
Lambeau
hey, Jared,
Field.
you're doing it at AT&T?
There you go.
I'm doing it at Lambeau Field. How about that?
Yeah, that's right. And by the way, the three of us would be there.
Right,
Oh,
exactly. We'll
yeah.
do a live show from there.
I already
as well.
got 3 people coming. What
That's
about
right.
you?
That's right. We're going
the
to
tour.
pre-register with the QR code.
It might be interesting with the purple and the green Packer Stadium.
Oh.
All the Vikings fans might be like, "Oh, you're a Viking fan." No,
You
I'm
have time
not.
to switch
I'm
your brand
sorry.
colors.
I'm
It's
not.
okay.
Correct. It's never too late to switch your brand colors. It's true. Well, Seth,
My mom doesn't like green, so I'm not going to go that route. I'm
true.
sorry.
I know every sports team I've ever been on has always had green. So
Did you answer how often you're here?
I'm here 2 to 3 times a year, sometimes
Okay.
more, but 2 to 3 is like the average.
and you've done 2 events in Wisconsin.
I've done
so
2 events so far up here. One for the Green Bay Glory, and then one we tried to do a little community event as
Yeah,
well.
very
Sure.
cool.
If you're going to be here, it makes sense to try to do an event, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good to know because this being something that will be coming out, you know, into the new year too, we have the opportunity to kind of market you in Wisconsin for like the summer when
Yeah.
the weather's nice or,
Totally.
you know, just in general for people to know about you and to learn about you and to have that time to follow you.
And also, I would assume that the goal is as you grow, you can make this duplicatable. So now you can have an event going on in Florida and an event going on in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
That is definitely one of the goals at some point. I do want to spread it out more.
Sure.
As fun as it is doing it in Florida, it does get just a little bit tedious. Like, oh yeah, we go out, it gets hot, they sweat.
Nobody's sweating off a QR code today in Wisconsin.
That
Not
is
a
true.
chance.
That's why when you mentioned that QR code idea, I'm like, that might be
get a
better
little
for
sweaty.
Wisconsin people.
True.
Yeah.
It
Listen, I
doesn't
am a
work too
Wisconsin
well with the
person. I have to
sweats.
think like a Wisconsin
True.
person. Yeah.
But it definitely, because I think I missed it the last time when you were asking, like, what are some like the long goals? I definitely do want to spread the business out more. Like maybe even if it is just doing more Florida, or if it is going state to state, if it is starting in Wisconsin doing it more, or even going to Texas and doing something over there, or even going, because I know there's Nerf groups all over the country, but it's a matter of actually getting my name out there. Like, yeah, there's a Nerf club, but what about a Seth's Ner-Fun club?
Yeah. Very
100%.
cool.
Well, Seth, we appreciate you taking the time to be on the Real Chat podcast today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Flying up here, we appreciate it. We'll
course.
reimburse your flight for coming up.
Yeah, I was also
appreciate
going to
it.
say those are business expenses
Correct,
if you have an event.
exactly.
like
They're
this.
all right off.
Another tip to entrepreneurship, that's for another
Your
show.
mom's ticket. too.
Yes,
Yeah.
right, exactly.
Right.
Everything.
You're welcome,
I think
Mom.
that's a write-off.
I think so.
Yeah.
Very
Yep.
cool.
You're right off.
It was super nice to meet you. Thank you so much
you so
for
much
coming
for
out
So
to the
great,
show.
Seth.
Yeah.
Best of luck on your
Yeah.
business.
Thank you.
Well, ladies, any final thoughts before we sign off? It was awesome to have Seth a part of the show and pretty cool, honestly. So any final thoughts for you before we sign off on this episode? All right. Well, we
was
appreciate
great.
everybody taking the time to listen. Remember, you can find us on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. Check us out on social media. The Real Chat Podcast, or Real Chat Pod, I believe, is where we are on all the
On
social
Instagram,
platforms on Instagram. So from Andy Wilkie and Ali Shu, I'm Baxter Colburn. This has been the Real Chat Podcast. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.